we'll begin. So we'll do a roll call first, please. We have with us Dr. Petrie, Ms. Allbrewster, Mr. Judge, Ms. Wingate, and Mr. Landers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of us. That is a quorum, so we can conduct business. If we would stand, please, in the invocation. We'll join us in prayer. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for allowing us to be here this evening. We trust that everyone got here safely. We would ask that these proceedings go through smoothly with great respect for everyone here. We also ask that as people depart, they depart and arrive at their destination safely. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first matter we have is the approval of the minutes from May 11, 2022 regular board meeting. This is the minutes from, this is the minutes from the Northeast Regional Exploratory Committee from May 22nd. I'm sorry, I didn't specify that. I can make a motion that the minutes be accepted as written. We have a motion and a second by Mr. Landers. All those in favor? Oh, wait, before we do it, do we have any comment on the passage of the minutes for the Northeast Regional Committee? No. Okay, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes 5-0. The next is the approval of the minutes from June 22nd, 22 regular board meeting. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the approval of the minutes? No? So we have a motion by Ms. Almbruce, a second by Ms. Wingate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Next item is the approval of the minutes for the July 25th, 2022 special meeting.
I move that the minutes be accepted. Approved, rather.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay.
Lynette Mejia.
Again, just to remind everybody, we're talking about the approval of the minutes, so that's and germane to this issue.
My name is Lynette Mejia, and I'm a resident of Lafayette Parish. I'm not sure whose decision it was to hold this special meeting at South Regional Library, but it's clear from the minutes that no one took the time to make sure the meeting was recorded, as all other regular board meetings are. Given the fact that the business of this meeting was to potentially fire an employee and deprive her of her livelihood and benefits, including health insurance for a medical procedure the following day, business that could have landed this board and LCG in court, it would seem that that would be a detail of utmost importance. Luckily, Ms. Chance had the presence of mind to hire her own private court reporter to record what went on at this meeting, but I find it beyond shameful that this public body would sink to such a low point.
Excuse me, the germane in the issue is passing of the minutes. Do you
I
have
am
some
talking
comment?
about the minutes.
Well, do you have something to add to the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
The minutes are supposed to be an accurate record of what happened at the meeting. 11 of 16 public speakers' comments were not recorded in the official minutes. It is shameful that the public has to bear the burden of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie Brevis. Pablo Mejia.
Good afternoon. My name is Pablo Mejia, and I am a resident of Lafayette Parish and a veteran. I'd like to address you on the minutes of the special meeting. The minutes don't adequately reflect the full content of the meeting, as the previous speaker detailed. Additionally, there's no audio record of the meeting. I understand that since this was planned as an executive session, the board may not have planned adequately for the meeting. And the fact that Ms. Kara Chance would request an open meeting. However, that is a problem of the board's own making. The board failed to inform Ms. Chance of their intent, the allegations they would make against her, or ask her if she wanted an open meeting in order to prepare for recording. It is the board's responsibility, duty and responsibility, to provide an adequate record, including minutes of the meeting. The owners of the library, the residents who fund it, who you serve, deserve and demand better. Thank you.
That's it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Landers?
Yeah, Danny, just to clarify, Was there a recording of last meetings? And if so, what's the status on that?
My understanding, I was not here, my understanding is that we had a malfunction on the library end with the recording device. Yes, and that is, it was a technical issue on the library side. That is why there is no recording.
And secondly, as far as the notation of all speakers, I guess is that a different policy to notate every single speaker that speaks, or just kind of certain ones, or just trying to understand that as well, if there were any speakers that weren't documented?
We have been, for the memory that I have of the meetings that I've attended for the last year and a half, we have been making a note of everyone who spoke and the topic they spoke about. I am not positive that we have that requirement. I can't speak to that if the attorney or someone else knows better, but.
Thank you.
Ms. Wingate?
Yes, just to tangent off of Shane's request. Someone stated in the comments that there were 11 speakers' comments were not recorded. Is there any way to have it recorded? We have their,
There is no recording.
no,
Their names are on the minutes.
Their
There is
names
no
are on the
recording to say that they spoke.
so section 3 lists everyone, including the 11 people that were, so they're there, just like everyone else. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? No? We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Comments from the library board is the next agenda item.
Okay, I'll be happy to update everybody here.
Microphone.
Exciting things. I'd be happy to update everyone about the support groups that are always cheering on our library and our staff here. I'll start with the Friends of the Lafayette Public Library. They're working on their second million. I know y'all heard recently they had reached that $1 million benchmark. They're scheduling a book sale Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, September 15th through the 17th. Write those dates down. They're going to have everything from alligators to Zydeco at their $1 an inch still in this book sale. Thursday, the 15th, is for members only, and that's 9 to 8. And Friday is 9 to 6, and Saturday is 9 to 2 at the Hyman Center. We are so proud of our friends. They have worked diligently for 40 years plus to keep our library, the discards, and keeping our library in the news and in the minds of our people and our patrons and our citizens. So please support them as they support our library through the years. The other support group is the Lafayette Public Library Foundation. And we are starting in earnest our year of work, trying a new outreach to get Lafayette reading, giving more awareness to things literary, and assisting our library. First out of the block of our outreach initiative and a new committee focus is Le Bouquiniste. We're getting books and people together. We're trying to get Lafayette to be a reading town. And this is our first attempt to get out. We're going to have a tent at Art Walk on October 8th. So please look for our tent in Art Walk and try to support this initiative to get books in the hands of people and Lafayette reading. So two great groups that really need your support for our events and things that we do have on library. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jones. The next item is Director's Report and Comments. Mr. Delaney.
Okay, so the library had, I'm out of time. The library had its budget hearing before the parish council, during which, that was last Thursday, during which some council members discussed their concerns about the proposed Northeast Library. Otherwise, it went swimmingly. The library is projected to use a little over $600,000 from our fund balance in fiscal year 22-23. However, we believe our actual spending will be less than our revenue. The library reduced its workforce by 8 positions, our second consecutive year of staff reductions. Last year, we were the only people to reduce our staff. With our adjustments to library hours and reorganization efforts, we think that we are now at the number of people we need to operate the library and provide all of our services. We're still feeling the ripple effect within management ranks following the retirement of our main library manager and our assistant director. We filled both of these positions from within, so now we have to fill those positions. Ben Paramore has been promoted to run our youth services department at Maine. He started in adult services at Maine before earning his library degree and becoming a children's librarian. Prior to this promotion, he had already been promoted to serve as a children's librarian and coordinated our daycare outreach at Maine. If you've been following the fortunes of the library for the last 5 or 6 years, just inside of the library, not like, out there in the world. Our former youth services managers have included our former outreach coordinator, Amy Wander, who everybody knows, our current main library manager, and our current assistant director, so no pressure for Ben. Michelle Lazarus will be our new assistant manager at the South Regional Library. She was the assistant manager at East Regional and had spent a short time as assistant manager at North. We've got a new budget analyst, Tiffany Castile. We have 2 new community service specialists, Lauren and Gabrielle. Gabrielle actually hasn't started yet, so if she's here or listening, it should be a surprise. In addition to losing 2 of our main library circulation staff to new opportunities, we lost our main circulation supervisor, Cheryl Ballard, last month. Cheryl died unexpectedly. She was an amazing supervisor and is missed by her staff. She was our go-to if we just needed, anyway. I have been in touch with LPSS about our shared goals. I hope to meet with the administration in early September to discuss ways to make our relationship stronger and more visible. Most people know about the library card initiative with the student IDs, but we have other shared resources, things where we've expanded beyond what the state provides. And it's almost like we've hidden that. And the school system administration agrees that seeing 2 different government agencies that are working together and actually accomplishing something would be pleasant news. We continue to have issues with our bookmobile, but we're working with vehicle maintenance on it. It is currently operational, so that's a good sign. We generally consider summer as June and July because that's when we have our summer reading program. With that in mind, this summer the library circulated 294,000 physical items and 55,600 digital items. We had 144,000 plus visitors and an additional 6,200 people used our drive-through. We had 29,000 plus public computer sessions. And of course, we reached our summer reading goal of having Lafayette read over 2 million minutes. Our full staff meeting is this week on Thursday, so our libraries will open at 1. And that's it.
Danny, can I ask a question for you?
Sure.
You said the bookmobile was having some vehicle issues. Do we only have one bookmobile?
Correct.
But it is working now.
Yes.
How many miles does it travel in a year? Do we know that?
No, but we could get that information for you.
I'm just curious as to, how frequent it's moving around and et cetera.
We could get you better information from our outreach department to provide that. The mileage thing Larry just pointed out, the mileage thing won't be as significant because it drives somewhere and then it'll sit there for a couple of hours while they serve the public. But we can get that too.
So maybe a better would be hours in operation?
Yes, I think that would be.
That would be a better,
And that should be easy to get my hands on.
Okay. Maybe we could do that by week or month, maybe?
I can probably do it by month.
Month, okay.
I'll see how far.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I don't have anything.
Maybe that could be added to the report.
Yeah, the outreach
After the
report.
I think it might
It might
be in there already,
Okay.
but if you weren't looking for it, but I'll check, and if it is, I'll let y'all know that too.
Facilities update and financial report.
Okay, for the facilities, the main library roof replacement project is moving along. Public Works has reviewed the plans and specifications and made their recommended changes. The draft plans and specs should be in the purchasing office any day now, and after review from the purchasing office, they'll go out for public bid. For the South Regional and North Regional Library upgrades, the amendments to the architectural services contract have been drafted and approved, and they're pending execution. Still waiting on that library warehouse lease amendment. Northeast Library, you guys can discuss that tonight. At East Regional Library, the leaking door was repaired, and the branch manager reported that the repairs seem to be working, so that's good. And then the roof leak at the East Regional Library also seems to be repaired. So we have a dry building for the month of July and August, so I'm very excited about that. Main, North, South, East, and West Regional Libraries will have their annual backflow preventers inspected. It's a requirement. And then at the main library, a delivery truck backed into the side of the building. So we have some repairs. That'll cost about $1,200. That, of course, I'll have the vendor pay for. But that's pretty much what I have for facilities. Any questions? Okay, for the finances, as of August 8th, 2022, revenue collections for the library system were $11.1 million, and expenses were $8.4 million. As Danny indicated earlier, we've been having a lot of repairs on the bookmobile. Fuel costs are up, so we've had to shift funding around just a little to cover those expenses. We moved funding from previous budget cuts into this account so we can pay for those. And also we're monitoring utility costs because obviously everyone has experienced utility increases. We'll see how that goes, but I think we'll have an increase in that area as well. On a good note, our interest on investments earning have increased to help offset some of these expenses. And that's what I have on the finances.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a very specific question for you. I'm looking at page 5, and I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear the expert. Uninsured losses, would that reflect deductibles, or is that something else in that category? I'm on page 5.
Uninsured losses. Oh, those are sort of tricky to explain.
Okay.
Those are handled by the risk management department, and I guess anytime there's a claim against the library and we have to pay out for something, that's basically the $10,625. That's pretty much all we paid out last year.
Okay.
So those are calculated in the year that it happened, and then, is that right, Shane?
You don't know.
Okay. And then the following fiscal year, once they know the actual cost, they'll bill the department that those costs incurred.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
that, relatively speaking, $10,000 is not bad.
No, wait, no, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Petrie, that, as Larry was saying, the budget you see is really kind of, for the prior year, it really kind
Right.
of, it always kind of lags.
Right, and those are anticipated costs that are baked into the next year's budget, right? Okay, thank you.
Next is new business, Northeast Library. We do have property owners may present RFPs, board will discuss and take action. I think there's two, if I'm not mistaken, two representatives here for the two properties that we're going to be discussed. They would like to make a presentation regarding that. No? Before I guess before the board takes action, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask, please. So these are legal questions, and I'll address these to Ms. Bate. Is the board under any legal obligation to use competitive bidding?
No.
Is the board legally bound by the laws governing the RFP process?
Not for acquiring property or entering a lease for property.
So if the answer is only in those instances, is the board, if the board's not bound by that other than in those instances, the board can deviate from any process in that regard to for an RFP? Or maybe you could explain it in a little, give me a little more detail, please.
As far as I can tell, I've researched it, looked at some attorney general opinions with some similar situations, and yes, the board is not legally bound by the competitive bidding process outlined in the public bid law or the title on public lands for acquiring property for this or entering a lease. Although the board is not really making that decision, you would decide which route you want to go and then recommend it to the parish council.
So the board doesn't even actually make the decision, we just make a recommendation to the parish council?
Right.
Okay. And then there's this question regarding Holy Rosary. I know there may have been some concern regarding that. When we asked for the RFP process that went through the committee, there's only 3 of us here that were on that committee. I was on the committee. I did not chair it. Mr. Landon Boudreaux did. And Mr. Palumbo, who was no longer on the board, he resigned. He was on the committee as well. And Mr. Thomas, who was Mr. Thomas, who is not here this evening, he's on the committee as well. But Mr. Gillane and Mr. Angel were as well. One of the RFP, and I'll ask Mr. Angel, because I think you put together the RFP to put out to bid, correct?
Yes.
When the committee voted for the RFP, the committee, if my memory serves me correct, actually rejected any leased property. Is that correct?
It's hard to say because there were still committee members that scored the property.
Correct. But the committee that voted and then the board brought a recommendation to the board. Actually, there was a discussion about adding a lease option instead of a purchase. I believe the board rejected that and wanted only to purchase a piece of property.
Right.
I mean, that's in the board meeting.
Yes, I do recall.
Minutes. Okay. Holy Rosary submitted an RFP in response to the RFP, a proposal for a 30-year lease. And I wanted to ask council regarding the possibility of building a taxpayer-funded building of ostensibly millions of dollars on a leased property in that regard. What are some of the ramifications of that, or if is that possible? And if it is possible, what are the ramifications of that?
It's a little bit difficult for 30 years. The Louisiana Constitution prevents any public entity from gratuitously giving away money or property. So to erect a multi-million-dollar library on land, the lease would either have to be long enough so that the building could depreciate adequately. So we're talking probably a 99 years type of situation, or we could add a provision to the lease where it would have to be bought by the lessor if they ever terminated it early, because we can't, the parish council couldn't elect to build a multi-million-dollar library on a piece of property and not receive comparable benefit and pretty much give away a building.
What would happen in the regard to, let's say that was a consideration, they build a building on a property that's not owned by the parish, and then the 30-year lease is up. What are some of those possibilities? If let's say they didn't renew the lease, or they renewed the lease and they charged more for the rent that we would pay.
Right, that's a possibility, or they wouldn't renew it. I can tell you legal counsel would not advise entering into a lease without some kind of buyback provision and allowing the owner of the land to be able to terminate it early or not renew it without purchasing the property, the building for fair market value.
Thank you. So right now, from a legal perspective, and I want to make sure we do this in accordance with the way it should be done, that we could start all over again from the beginning if we wish to, if this board wanted to.
You could. Again, there's no legal procedural requirement to accept proposals. If someone walked in the door and offered you one now, you could consider it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I'll open it up if the board members have any further discussion or questions regarding moving forward with the Northeast proposals. I will just add this one thing. We have two board members that aren't here right now. I'm a little uneasy with not having their input and their consideration in moving forward without them. So, but whatever the board wants to do, I'm fine with. I just want to mention that not having these two gentlemen here and having such a we reach quorum right now because we have 5 of us, and that's the minimal number. So we can pass it with 4 votes, but I'll leave the rest of it up to you guys. Mr. Landers.
Yeah, this is directed to Danny. I had really thought Holy Rosary was a great site. There was one a couple of meetings back I inquired about, but to my knowledge, they never offered a buyback provision or to sell it to us at all. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. And yes, I would like to move forward because I think we want to get this project rolling. So I'd like to vote tonight.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I spent a good bit of time reviewing all of my notes from my 6 months, 7 months on the board on this very topic. I understand that this has been delayed for a number of reasons, part of which has been turnover in the board. And I agree with Shane. I just want to declare to the board trustees up here, having put a lot of thought into this, my only position, if you will, is that yes, I want to move forward with that branch, with that needed and justified branch. In terms of accepting and reviewing additional proposals, the question that I keep coming back to for myself is, not the question, the point is, I want us, in this case, as the, if you will, managers of public taxpayers' money to this project, I want the best possible answer, so to speak, to the tax holders. This is what we decided after a lot of due diligence and based on X number of proposals. I just feel very strongly that we are making this decision on behalf of our fellow taxpayers and citizens. And to put it in the simplest terms, I want the most bang for the buck, period.
As I mentioned at a prior meeting, I know that all of us are concerned about ensuring that every part of our community, that they're adequately serviced. However, continuing to look at the financials that are given to us, I'm still very cautious because we're still in the red, and while Danny and the other staff have done a remarkable job at making cuts to the budget, and we are all very optimistic about what they are projecting. That's a projection. So until I can see that we're out of the red and we're able to sustain growth, again, I mentioned I don't want to make similar mistakes that past boards made. You know, hindsight's 20/20. So to proceed again, I'm very cautious about that, and I'm concerned about until we actually we're out of the red and show that we can sustain the growth financially. I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to abstain from moving forward.
Yes, Mr. Landry.
Stephanie's point is definitely one that I've considered for my budgeting analyst hat. I agree 100%. However, I think that this is such a need that I feel confident in our director that we're going to make it work. And I know Danny has stated multiple times that services at our other libraries very likely will take a hit, besides just Sunday closings. But that appears I still think with this library is such a need that I believe in our director to make that happen.
Jake, that means a lot coming from you, given your position in what you do. And I do concur. I think Danny has done an excellent job. We've all seen that. I'd like to see those proposals of what's going to have to be cut to see that if I feel that that's fair. I know that a lot of people in smaller communities have worked really hard to get this tax passed. And I would, with the notion that they're going to continue, if it passes, they're going to continue to have their library services as is. So that would be important.
Danny, I know a couple meetings back, you kind of brought up kind of what cuts or some sort of plan. Has that been, I know you've been out for quite a while. I guess what's the status on getting together a type of plan of what it may look like if we proceed with this library and what other hits, I guess, or services maybe cut in other libraries?
All right, this is not in stone. This is one option, just one. One of the things that I asked back in June and July when I was talking to Doug was to let me talk. And in August, I mentioned at a board meeting that we should put everything on the table. Would people who have X amount of library service be willing to give up a little bit so that people who have none can have some? And so I reached out to the managers and I asked them, I'm going to give you a scenario, and I asked my managers what they would need in terms of staffing in this scenario. And what they came back with was such that I believe, just from a staffing standpoint, we have enough staff that if we moved people around, this is not taking into account the Chenier and Butler libraries. We have no idea what impact building another library close to them, but on the other side of the thruway, would do. We don't know if Chenier remains open or if Chenier doesn't remain open or changes its hours because there is no need. We don't know. That said, with our current finances and our current number of staff, if we opened the main library and South Regional Library, the 3 existing smaller regional libraries, and a new library for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, we could maintain a library without asking the taxpayers for another dime. That said, we would, so 8 hours a day. So you're looking at, if you're open till 8 o'clock at night, the library opens at noon. So my proposal would have the main library and the South Regional Library, the 2 busiest libraries, would be open, making up days, not in stone. I'm going to repeat that over and over again. So say Maine's open Monday night and Wednesday night, and the daytime Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And South is open Tuesday night and Thursday night, and the daytime the other days. And then we rotate the smaller regionals, there'd be 4 of them, and each one would be open 1 night and 3 days, and then Friday and Saturday during the day. That would guarantee that there were evening hours at 2 libraries any of the days that we currently have evening hours. So with some planning, you've got a library reasonably close to you, or at least as close to you as you have one now, that is open in the evenings. This is comparable to the level of service you would get in other places that are similar in size to us, like Calcasieu Parish. A lot of people talk about this whole per capita library branch thing, and you can take the statistics that the state library collects and you can make them do anything you want. I know, I used to collect them and I used to make them do whatever it is my bosses wanted me to make them do. So Shreveport has like 150 libraries. It's more like 24, but 150 sounds funnier. They're not all open 7 days a week, 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. So, and Shreveport's a city, and Shreveport, Caddo Parish is a little bit bigger than we are, both geographically and population-wise. So this is just my first stab at could we do this? And I came up with it. I discussed a little bit with Doug, and I talked a little bit about, I was tired of hearing people tell me they were tired of hearing, oh, you can afford to build it, but you can't operate it. That's great. So I said, well, what if we could? What would you be willing to give up so that someone else could have a library? And that's all I got so far.
And I'll direct this question to Danny and Larry, if I may. Is it possible to run those numbers on different scenarios to see? I mean, we know about how much it would cost to operate a library. So if we have a new branch, we know we need X dollars to actually operate it. With making the changes that you've postulated, and I know not written in stone, But this is an idea of a possible way to kind of crack that nut. Is it possible then to run those numbers and go, yeah,
My time, your time, sir. I'm sorry. So,
can I finish my question?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So is it then, can we go through that process and look at that scenario? And again, not in stone, not in stone, not in stone. But look at the process and go, if we do these things, one, does it raise the revenue we need in order to be able to accomplish that task and fund it to operate it? And then two, what kind of feedback, because this is the first time this idea has been kind of thrown out in the public, and what kind of response do we get from the public? I think it's a great idea that we can kind of move things around, have night services in some libraries and some locations and kind of rotate it around. I mean, it's quite a creative way to achieve this goal. But I think to give some board members at least some comfort level that, yeah, the numbers work.
we will,
Can we do that?
yeah, we can try.
And then that way we can, there's some actual numbers on it. Say, yeah, this works. This actually reaches that goal.
Yeah, we'll give it our best effort, and we should be able to come up with something that you can suggest.
With that said, and Ms. Bruce is concerned, and I would like to move forward. There was one other thing that was brought up I believe that was mentioned perhaps in a parish council meeting about when South Regional was constructed, before it was constructed, South Regional, they did a test library in sort of in the strip mall. Yeah, I think it was Time Plaza, it was, if I remember correctly. I remember going to it. And it was to see what type of response that got. And while that process was moving forward, and that was floated kind of early on in the committee process, and it was also mentioned in the, I believe, if my understanding is correct, in the parish council meeting. We didn't go that route, this board didn't go that route. But again, just to throw that out there, that that's a possibility. Again, we heard from council about we're not really restricted by this process. We can open it back up again, we can start off, we can do have a great deal of latitude in this process. So that's all I have at the moment. Yeah, Shane.
Well, I agree with that all those things are reasonable to consider, and there may even be other proposals that we receive besides the two that we're looking at tonight. I guess my thoughts is if we keeping this open to consideration week after week, then we don't really get anywhere. So I would say my thing is we have a certain property I like, but I believe we have good properties already. If we had weak offers, then I would say let's keep this open till we get something that's a great offer that we all feel comfortable with. But I think we already have that. So it'd be my request for us to just continue moving forward with this and not keep things open at this point.
Mr. President, in reference to the last, the last comment that you made about possibly leasing, I was not privy to the meetings. I was not member of the committee Northeast Exploratory, but this was something that I've heard with members of the committee were very adamant they did not want. They wanted a built library. And what is the purpose of having a fabulous committee that did superb work and not take the recommendation? So I would,
No, the only reason I mentioned it is because it was mentioned in the parish council. That's all.
yeah, which was.
We didn't vote, the board didn't vote to do that.
Right.
Correct.
But this comment was made after the due diligence of the committee was thrown as a,
Yes.
as a comment,
That
as
is
a
correct.
suggestion. But it was clear that members of the committee, and we you know, they were very adamant about not having it going forward.
And I echo Joan's sentiments, and I guess as I did with Stephanie, from a budgetary, financial perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense to, let's do a test site, let's kind of do that. However, I believe that this community on the northeast side is underserved, and I believe we've received enough feedback from the public that will be used. So that's why I am in propose of us continuing building a brick and mortar site and not leasing it, anything along those lines.
Thank you. Is that all the discussion we have from the board? There's no motion on the floor.
So did I understand you correctly that there will be no proposals tonight? Will they be presented?
I asked them if the two proposals, one was the Chapuis property and the other one's the ESD investments, if they would want to represent their proposal. If they're here, I mean, we have them here. I don't know if they want to say anything. No?
I'll speak.
You speak? Okay.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm Dr. Sharika Davis. I am the president of Infinity College and also ESD Investments, one of the contenders for the land acquisition for the Northeast Library. What I'd like to say is that, and I've echoed it on the last meeting, is that everyone was given the same RFP and also the same instructions and the same amount of time to actually read and construct their proposal to the library board and its committees. There was a deadline to submit, which I do believe that all four, which were in question, did submit by that deadline. But as per your initial meeting, two of the RFPs did not meet the minimum criteria. If I recall correctly, ESD Investments scored the highest of all four, and Chapuis Properties scored third out of the fourth, if I recall. At the night of the initial meeting, ESD Investments, by scoring the highest, was the sole property that was to be looked at, if I understood correctly, as of that initial meeting. The meeting I attended on last month, which was changed from the Monday to the Wednesday, I believe because it was a holiday, I found out probably about 15 minutes before the start of the meeting, so I was not informed that there was a change of the date of the meeting. I feel that any changes to the RFP or any instructions should be distributed fair and equitable. So from what I'm seeing, what you had up on the screen just a few moments ago, Chapuis Properties was allowed to revise their proposal. I did not receive any information from the board or any committee designating any changes that could have been made to the initial proposal, which in my opinion, again, is a legal document submitted by the city of Lafayette, state of Louisiana, any RFP, whoever put it together. With that also being said, I'm hearing what you're saying about possibly delaying. And as far as I know, is that this conversation has been taking place for many, many years, even since it goes back to when Kenneth Boudreaux was the councilman when I learned about the Northeast Regional Library possibly becoming an issue. So in my opinion, why are the people of this Northeast community in Lafayette, Louisiana, why are they treated differently? Why are they treated less than? If you are saying that the people in this community have a low economic status, low education scores, the library would be something that would serve this community a great justice, especially the kids that go to school in the public sector of the arena that may not have viable internet or computers at home. So these are the people in this community, especially the younger generation, that may grow up to be your healthcare workers. They may grow up to be the next judge, the next policeman, fireman in this community. So do you want someone that may not have the adequate education or the means to do so to come into a hospital room and be able to take care of you?
So I say that to say, regardless if you choose ESD, treat the people of the northeast communities of Lafayette, Louisiana fair, but also be fair with my proposal, and also Chapter 3 properties and any other proposal, be fair and equitable with it, because according to what the minutes said in the meetings that I've attended, ESD investments was the sole high score, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a motion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Landers?
Yes, may I make a motion?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to accept the offer by ESD Properties.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. Okay. Do we have any discussion for this?
Andrew, do y'all?
One second, please. You're going to do 245, right? Okay, hang on one second. All right, we ready?
Well, I've always said about this project that the biggest issue that we have with this project is managing expectations. It's funny, I've spoken to Dr. Davis several times, but I met her the first time in 2019 because Kenneth Boudreaux and I had a discussion. This is when I was serving on the board, on this board. And Kenneth Boudreaux and I had a discussion about the possible availability of a property, and so I went to speak to Dr. Davis at that time. And we've had some conversations since then. I'm obviously sort of in favor of that project, of that property. I think it's a nice property. It's very on a nice throughway there on Louisiana Avenue, proximity to the north side, and to Genevieve Falk. It's wonderful. Actually, it's a beautiful area, and it's right next to the college that they're building there right now, Infinity College. So I think it's a prime spot. But hear me straight. At this point in time, I'd accept any one of those properties. Why? Because when I talked about managing expectations, Ken Boudreaux's request to me, or thoughts to me, were, Drew, he said, can we build this library in a year or two? And I went, whoa, wait a second. Larry, we've never built a library any quicker than maybe 4 years, right? It's just the way the process goes, because it's a public entity, and we got to go through the legalities that come with being a public entity. So all I say is that now it's time to finally take action. I think that, it's just been too long. 2019 is when this money was appropriated. Here we're in 2022, and we're still kind of thinking about whether we want to do this or not. I applaud you, Shane, for making the motion, because I think it's really time to get moving on this project. So thank you for your time. Please consider her property, but I'd say consider any one of those properties as long as it comes with the result of getting this library begun. And also, I'd like to say I do have, Stephanie, just as you said, I have very big concerns. I've kind of spoken that to a lot of people. Ask the staff about how they're going to be able to manage this. I have the utmost faith in Danny and Larry and the staff to be able to do this, but they got to put the pencil, to the paper, and they've got to give you the numbers that show that you can do this. I think they can do it. So I think it's time to move ahead. So please consider that. Please vote for this and get it moving. Thank you.
Mitzi, do y'all? Mary Liv Garcia?
Good evening. First of all, I want to commend the board for getting things to this point. Then I want to urge you to do exactly what Shane and Andrew have just urged you to do, which is take action. I was at the budget meeting for the parish council when Josh Carlson suggested having a temporary location. You don't to determine need. You don't need to determine need. The need is there. When you don't have anything is better. So you build the library that your people need, that will meet their needs with the money that you have. As Sidra Wingerter noted, This may not need the square footage that some of our other libraries have had because we live in a technological time and we actually may have, this library may have different functions and purposes. This is a matter of trust in the community. People are watching this. The prison is being looked at with a private contractor because the city doesn't have the money without passing a new tax to build the prison, yet the need is there. The need is there for this library. Secondly, the millage issue has not been really addressed as it should be. We can increase the millage percentage, and maybe Shane can go into more detail about that. But we have latitude within state law when our revenues are vary from what the original bond issue stipulated to raise that. We could have generated approximately $300,000 to $350,000, if my recollection is correct, from what was discussed by raising to the maximum within that range. The board chose not to do that. That was unfortunate. That would have made life a lot easier. We might have been able to keep some Sunday hours open. But there are ways to do this. Also, if it takes 4 years to build, and hopefully that number can come down, we have the opportunity, if we can regain public trust, to ask the public to increase our millage. So we don't need to rule that out. What we need to do is to look at the needs of the community that is totally underserved. There are 9 libraries west of Evangeline Thruway. There are 0 libraries east of Evangeline Thruway. So I would ask that you move tonight on going forward with the property purchase and beginning that process. Finally, I would like to say that, I'm sorry, I thought it was 2:40. I thought I had 15 seconds.
Mine just went on. My 3 minutes went on. She did 2:45, I got 3 minutes. So
okay.
That was it.
All right.
That was your time. Thank you.
Dr. Amy Barber.
Hello. This is my first meeting, so thank you for, this is a great experience. I wanted to speak today about the Northeast Library because I have the privilege of serving on a cafe, which is the community and family engagement for a school that's located in the area that this library would serve. And I thought I would share this story about our recent meeting that kind of launched this initiative. The school year's coming, you know, it's exciting, we're launching it, and we're there to listen to the needs of the educators and the administrators in those schools. And the very first thing that she said was, y'all, we need that library. We need that library. And when I think about this, I'm a former first grade teacher, now teacher educator. And so when I think about the needs of the summer reading programs at the library, the events that come into the library, the crafts that come in, the guest speakers that come in, the puppet shows, I've taken my own 3 kids to all of those. And thinking that this area of the community is missing out on all of those rich resources and how much that could do for the kids of that community. We know Things in Education is a summer slide. The principal shared with us that they actually made a 28% positive growth in their reading proficiency scores this year. Those schools are doing amazing, incredible things. Those educators are amazing. They would be happy to talk to you, by the way, about all the things that they'd like to see in the library. So imagine not having to go one more summer without those resources available, one more year of after-school programs not available. And imagine that you could sort of be the face, like the positive press that would come from saying, this summer, kids, you get to experience all of these amazing things. So let's not see one more summer go by. I think that whatever we can do to really push this forward quickly and make a state-of-the-art library that will really bring rich resources to an area that doesn't have it right now. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Abraham.
First thing I had to say, well, it's a question. We're not allowed to ask, well, we're allowed to ask questions. We're not allowed to give responses. There was a mention that we're operating in the red, and maybe one of you could address it. My understanding is that the Lafayette Parish Public Library has operated in the red briefly, but has not operated in the red for quite a while. That Larry and Danny, thank you, Danny have done a good job. And you know, whatever decision you make, we've got to do that for those kids. If there's one way that we're going to reverse some of the things, some of the obstacles those kids face, and kids all over the city face, one of the best ways to do it is with books and reading, and to inculcate a love of reading from all of them. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ms. Ross, proud Army veteran and resident of the North Side. I was honored to be afforded the opportunity to serve on the Northeast Library Exploratory Committee. I have attended every single meeting. I have records of it if you would like to see it. And I am sick and tired of hearing comments about, oh, we need to do this, we need to wait, oh no. We have a meeting. We made a decision to move forward with one property. I was on this committee, and you know what happened? Without any prior notification, the committee was dissolved. No one on that committee received any type of email, text, nothing about the committee being dissolved. And magically a few days later, we discovered that Mr. Judge, which I have copies of the email if you would like, stating he added that property. We do not support the committee, that property off of Moss Street, near the Juvenile Detention Center, also by a railroad track and a post office. One, the site is unappealing. Let's be honest here. That community is predominantly low-income minorities, but people like me. Point blank, if River Ranch was in need of a library, I'm sure it would have happened by now. So I want to make this clear. With every ounce in my body, I will not stop till every single one of you is made aware that Danny, who is paid to do his job, not a volunteer, he is paid, he has knowledge, he's been doing this for many years. He said it over and over again at the council meeting. He said it. What do you want? You want it in Braille? Do you want someone to tell you in sign language? Those are services that could be offered at a library. Unfortunately, we don't have a library in my community that could offer that type of service. So I want to make this very clear to you, Mr. Judge. You dissolved this committee, but you did not render me voiceless. I have a voice, and I want to make it very clear. I will stop speaking when I'm ready to stop speaking. A timer will not shut me up. We need a library, and it's time to have a library in my community now. We have a property, it's in a great location. That lady submitted her RFP. She has the money. She has all these sources. There's an Infinity College, a beautiful college. Go drive by. There is a high school. There is J.W. Falk nearby. That location is the best location. And I want you, and you, and you, and you, Miss Armbruster, to understand. I understand. You want to make sure we're making the best decision. You want to make sure all the dots are dotted, all the T's are crossed. But Danny, who is paid to do his job, said it. We have the money. 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 We have $8 million. We have the money for a library. We have the money. What more do you want? We need
Citizen Lafayette. Frequented
this library here for years and now enjoy the one in Scott. Thank y'all for y'all's commitment and what y'all do. I also, together with 6 other folks, own a piece of property. Address is 100 Shadowbrook Drive, which is intersected with Louisiana Avenue. And I would request that y'all allow us to make a proposal for y'all for that property to be used for the Northeast Library. In other words, y'all purchase that property. I'll tell you a little bit about it. And apologize that I was not aware of the RFP process, and apologize, meaning no disrespect to the members of the committee and y'all with the work y'all done so far. But I think what I have to offer or I have to say may be of interest to y'all. Property we have is 10 acres. We obviously would subdivide it to the 4 to 6 acres that would accommodate the library's needs. I also would say that where it's located is, if you're coming from Target South back toward town, let's say, it's in that rise. It would make for a beautiful aesthetic building, library, as that street goes up there. We've offered the property for sale for $675,000. That's 10 acres. That's $67,500. We have an appraisal that's dated May of last year, which is about 15 months ago, which appraises the property at $508,000. That's $58,000. Now, how much would we propose to sell the carved out 4 to 6 acres would depend. But what I'm trying to say is that overall, that property is worth $56,000. I think that's much more competitive than what is being considered in a per acre or overall price. I would ask y'all to entertain giving us the opportunity to make a proposal, and I'm giving you an idea in the range that it would be. Now realize, property or land or square footage that fronts a street, Louisiana Avenue or Shadowbluff Drive, would be more valuable than property that's further back. The property is cleared, there's no buildings on it, there are some trees in the back part, but again, I repeat myself to say that that which is on the front right of Louisiana Avenue or Shadowbluff Boulevard, I'm saying overall it's appraised at $58,000 an acre. Maybe that's worth 25% more than that, but y'all consider that. Thank you.
Just to make sure we're clear on we all know what time it is.
Now it's time.
Matthew Humphrey.
My name is Matthew Humphrey. I'm a resident of Lafayette. I have all kinds of stuff to say, but first, can we get folks to hold up the signs for Kara? If you oppose fascism in the Lafayette Public Library, thank you. All right, so I'm
Excuse me, 1 second. Shane had brought this to my attention.
Can we pause it?
Yeah.
Oh, can I reclaim my time, please? I understand you like to censor people. I programmed time for you to interrupt me. Please don't arrest me again, sir.
I can't do that. Shane mentioned brought this to my attention in the beginning, on number 6 of the sign-in sheet, you get, just remind everybody, one of the things we want to make sure of is that there will be no debate or confrontation with the board. The speaker will not make any derogatory comments about any person, but will simply state factually what the speaker's concerns are. So again, I just want to, because we kind of get off the trail a little bit with this, and you know, we want to let everybody have their chance to speak certainly on the issues that concern them. But again, this is a meeting of the board, and the
Fascism.
Okay, that's a derogatory comment.
It's topics of discussion that are not on the agenda, and I would like to talk about fascism and how you would like to exert your power to fire a librarian. It's not on the agenda, but it needs to be talked about. I'd like for you to resign. Can I talk about that?
You can talk about that as long as...
Cool, start the timer. That's what I'm here for.
Derogatory comments about any person, but will simply state factually.
So you're not a person, you're a board president when you're in this function.
You're out of order. So, you're out of order. So anyway, we'll go ahead and.
Out of Robert's order? It's not church, sir. It's a public
Time's
meeting.
going on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
Hold up your signs for Kara again. Thank you. We don't support fascism in the Lafayette Public Library. So, some things that I think we need to make sure that we talk about. I noticed Michael Lunsford's not in here anymore, but I wanted to make sure folks know that when he is in here, you probably need to be careful. Don't put your real address on anything when you sign up, because they will map you. Michael Lunsford is directly responsible for the installation of Robert Judge as board president, as well as Stephanie Armbruster. Why are we still talking about leasing a property? It was voted on that we were purchasing a property. The Northeast Exploratory Committee came and gave a recommendation to purchase. You guys, you remember the night you had me arrested, right? We were talking, you literally tried to have me arrested and put out because I was piping back when you were lying about the committee's recommendation. It was the night that we were talking about the Northeast Regional Library, and then Michael Lunsford came up in the third agenda item. I said, yeah, you had me arrested. Surely you remember this. But you keep bringing it back to leasing. You even go as far as to bring up that Josh Carlson mentioned at a parish council meeting. We moved on from the topic of leasing, sir. We're buying a building. It needs to just go forward. Anyway, you done got me worked up with all that stuff. So we wouldn't be in the red, Stephanie, if Michael Lunsford would stop working to defeat taxes that fund our libraries. Michael Lunsford likes to throw grenades like Robert Judge and Stephanie Armbruster into the library's operations and then blame it on the library as not being good stewards of their money. The drama is you, Robert Judge. The drama is Michael Lunsford. It is dangerous here now. People get arrested, people lose their jobs. Fascism. So, it sounds like Danny has done the work that you all paid him, I'm sure, handsomely to do. And Shane seems like he knows what he's talking about. And you guys definitely never do. So why not go Shane, go with Danny, build the library. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Alton Trahan. I represent the 100 Black Men, Greater Lafayette, as well as I was a former Northeast Library Exploratory Committee member. And I'm very optimistic. You know, I wake up every morning with optimism. And today I think is a great day. I appreciate the motion that was made and second. I want to encourage each and every one of you to vote in support of it. And here's the reasons why. As a member of the Northeast Committee, I was afforded the opportunity to review all 4 RFP and without any partiality, basically be very reasonable. And out of the 4, ESD was the primary property. That's why they became option 1 or the number 1 out of the whole RFP process. So the question seems to be whether or not something is feasible on necessity. And I think we've established the point that it's definitely necessity, right? We need the library. There's a board in the Northeast area. The other question was feasibility, and I think we have the money to build it. Danny has explained, and several others, that we can actually afford operation. So with those 2 obviously answered, being both needed and feasible to operate the library, now we have to move forward. And if any of you guys kind of look at the library systems, and I have, I've been an avid reader back in the early days. Andrew Carnegie, right, who started the public library system and donated millions of dollars to make sure that individuals have opportunity and access to books. And we at the crossroads tonight to make that decision. And I think I'm very confident that you guys would do so, because you have to look at the location. When you look at the criteria, we look at location, we look at the environmental issues. That property is located between J.W. Falk. Now, J.W. Falk happens to be a school that is not doing well. I won't label them here tonight, it's not my position, but they're not doing well. They need all the help they can. Northside is doing much better. Northside is a high school, obviously, that can help the kids at J.W. Falk, as well as other surrounding schools. That location presents the perfect opportunity for what the teacher said earlier, and everyone in here, and other nonprofits who want to work feverishly to raise that score at that school. because they're walking distance for afternoon programs and everything else that's considered. So I'm urging you guys to make the decision tonight. We have been involved in this since August, when the former president was on the board, met with Doug, and I'm glad he did what he did. So I'm asking you guys to actually move forward, vote in favor of this project, and let's do what we're supposed to do morally and ethically for the parish of Lafayette. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Ann Swanson.
Just for clarification, we're still, we're still on the Northeast Regional Library, right? Okay, so that's the germane, that's the issue that we're got. So I just wanted to remind everybody.
Okay, hi, I'm Ann Swanson, and I am here representing an organization called Women of Wisdom. We are 146 women strong. We're a nonprofit, a group of diverse women that seek unity and inclusiveness among women within our communities. And we are in support of the ESD proposal. It's a great location. It is good access to schools. It's accessible. And we encourage the board to move forward on this proposal this evening. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm not going to talk for too long, but I just want to say that I really want to echo comments made by people tonight who are supportive of the Northeast Regional Library. This has been a process that has dragged on too long, and for anyone up there pleading poverty, you have no one to blame but yourselves, because you did not do anything from 2018 to this present day to ensure sustainable funding for the library. In fact, you did the exact opposite with your attacks in 2018 and 2019, and there is absolutely no excuse for that, other than you resign. For the Northeast community, it has been way too long. I actually tried to book a meeting for a group over at that library, and I couldn't, because they're only open from 4 to 7, 4 days a week. Everywhere else in the parish has a library that is accessible from 9 to 8, 4 days a week, and 2 other days. And it's just unacceptable that the north side, the Northeast community, does not have that. And I'll just echo, I can't remember every single word Narika has said, but she is absolutely right. It's way overdue, and there is absolutely no excuse for dragging your feet on this process. There's no excuse for you to be talking about leasing. You just need to get it done.
I just want to point out, first of all, Mr. Judge said there were 3 members of the Northeast Committee in this room. There are actually 3 more members in this room that we've identified ourselves. We're members of the public. We were on that committee as well. As a member of the former Northeast Committee, I should be one of the most informed people in this room with regards to the building of this new library. However, after having our committee summarily dissolved at the June meeting without having the courtesy of informing the members, I might add, or even saying it loud enough that Mr. Gillane heard it and added it to the minutes, I can honestly say that the process in place for keeping the public informed about the progress of their library is sad, to say the least. With the committee disbanded, the only source of information is the Northeast Committee website, which is buried in submenus on the library website. No explanation of what the process is, just some links to the RFPs. No timeline, no context. Nothing that gives members of the public who aren't government bureaucrats any clue of how this works. It's ridiculous and insulting to this community. Second, when the Northeast Committee discussed allowing property owners to present their best and final offer to the board, my understanding was that this was a price offer. After reviewing the offers received on the website, it appears that the Chapuis owner submitted an entirely new RFP, which included a different plat of land that is completely different than the one scored by the committee. The Holy Rosary property was not allowed to alter its RFP to move forward in this process, and it seems disingenuous at best and unfair to ESD Investments at worst to allow Chapuis this kind of leverage in the bidding process. You can't just change the land you're offering halfway through. I therefore recommend that the board move forward with purchasing the ESD Investments property on Louisiana Avenue. I further ask that you reinstate the Northeast Exploratory Committee to continue to meet to oversee the process in the public's best interest, as well as to keep the public informed. I also ask that you please look into building a webpage that does a much better job of informing the public about the library they have waited so long for. Thank you.
Time is, of course, of the essence. As many people have said before, this project has been underway and in process for a very long time. And as we know, these governmental processes take a very long time. So every delay on any particular step of the process means that it takes even longer to get to its next steps of the process, which also have their own time frames. So continuing to hem and haw about whether or not you're going to do it is just a waste of time. We've had the conversations, we've done the work, done the research, you had a whole committee come in and give you recommendations, look into all the things, you looked over it yourselves. So what is the purpose of further deliberation? We've been deliberating for months about it, years about it, decades about it. Let's get the show on the road. With regards to, with regards to the finances, my long-term memory is mashed potatoes. I can barely remember anything. And I remember Danny giving that exact speech he just gave about how he would find money for that, for the running of the Northeast Library at a different meeting that I was at. I remember that. So why are we asking that question again? Same thing with the lease. I remember, and I was not on the Northeast Exploratory Committee, but I remember at the meetings of this board, that option being thrown out. So why are we discussing it again? Can we just please move forward with the process? Thanks.
Thank you.
Francisco Rocco.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am Dr. Francesco Crocco. I'm the president of Move the Mindset, an organization in Lafayette Parish committed to racial and social justice. And I'm also a longtime educator. And I'll just say up front, I am here to support and speak to the proposal that Mr. Landers gave, the motion that is on the table here, I think it's time to move forward. I know that there's some discussion about, what are the costs of moving forward? Can we afford it? I think Director Zelaine has explained that there is funding available. We have an adequate location. Members of the Exploratory Committee are supporting this location. Members of the community support this location. I think in delaying, the costs are not just, can we afford to juggle around librarians and so on, but I want to raise to your attention that we live in a state that is 49th in educational attainment. 49th. I can tell you that at UL, we're very busy trying to address that problem, and there are statewide initiatives to attempt to address that problem. And I think we can all agree that one of the reasons that we're 49th in educational attainment has to do with a legacy of Jim Crow and institutional racism in this state.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine once said, when you have half the population busy trying to hold back the other half the population, well then as a state you're not going to get very far, right? So we're trying to rectify that now. We all know there's a need in the north side for a library. I think nobody disagrees with that. So at this point, if we have been working towards this now since 2019 or sooner, And as I said, we have a documented need, we have funds available, we have a location available, and we have a mandate from the public to do this. Let's get this done. You can all leave tonight being heroes. So I encourage you all to vote on this motion, support this motion, and let's give the North Side citizens, the children especially, the library they deserve and the future they deserve. Thank you.
Well, I was going to speak, but I should know better than to follow behind my president out in Trahan. So I just want, for the sake of, regurgitating what he just said, I support the location of VSD. I do question the process of adding another choice. I think it's a slap in the face to the hard work and hours that was put in by the exploratory committee. I wish that this board would respect the wishes of that committee. It's a cross-section of the entire community. Some people didn't get the location that they wanted, but at the end of the day, they all decided that ESD was the best location. So I ask that you respect that. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the ESD investment bid, or I shouldn't say bid, the request for proposal, the RFP, to move forward, and then the second was by Dr. Petrie. So I'll ask for a vote unless there's any further discussion from the board members. No? So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is 4 votes for, and so with that, the motion does pass. That motion, that proposal will now, if I understand, will go to the parish council.
At some point, yes. Yes, I believe it has to pass through the purchasing office first.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay. All right, last thing is we have is item number 8, comments on matters not on the agenda. We have, how many we have? A lot. Okay. Ms. Beck, we have, this Louisiana law allows people to comment on items on the agenda and motions that exist, correct?
Yes.
Is there any requirement that we have open discussion about items not on the agenda?
No.
No. So, because it's on the...
This is an agenda.
Would you like me to clarify?
Yeah, clarify. I understand it's on the agenda. We created, that's a whole, I'm not asking that. I'm just asking you the question. Does the Louisiana law require that we have this item on the agenda and for people to speak at every meeting on things not on the agenda?
No.
Okay, that's all. That was my question. All right, so we have quite a few, right? Okay, very good. All right, so let's get started.
Mitzi Guyon. Mary Lou Garcia.
For those of you that have not been to one of these library board meetings, you're beginning to see what some of the problems that we are experiencing. I'm speaking now about how the library system treats its employees. It's my understanding that we've had to make several cuts in order to obtain the reduction in costs. we're going to have a very difficult time attracting competent, qualified, interested employees to even apply for jobs, given the atmosphere and the hyperbole that constantly surrounds the actions of this board. I want to congratulate you on taking action on the library. I think that that will go a long way towards giving some closure to the community that has been concerned about this for so long. But going forward, this board needs to do a better job of managing its personnel with dignity and according to due process, and also in managing its relationship with the public. You may not have to offer an opportunity for the public to make comments, but it is certainly advisable to do so. And I hope that this was not a warning shot across the bow or a threat for what may happen in the future. We in the public appreciate the opportunity to speak before you and to speak to issues that matter to us, and I thank you for that.
Thank you so much for your vote. It means a lot to those kids. September 6th is National Read a Book Day. Make your world better, make your community better, make yourselves better. Read a book.
I really want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all who supported the library. For us, I want you to know the community need a library, and you heard us. And I just want you to know, moving forward, I'm really, really hoping you all can consider reinstating the Northeast Library Exploratory Committee. We need it, because as you see, without the committee, members can just add locations and do all these things and cancel meetings without any notification of any kind. So I believe it's imperative we have a Northeast Library Exploratory Committee so this process can move forward in a timely manner without people randomly canceling meetings, changing locations, and making the process longer than it already is. So I believe that is something you all should consider. You are a hero. So let's move forward and continue on to be a hero. So when you go to bed tonight, I want you to know you did the right thing. And that's it. Thank you. And thank you, Stephanie.
I thought I'd have a little more time there, but I don't know. It felt like a fever pitch tonight. You have people shouting at the podium and the police coming up here and Robert Judge asking for quotes on the law and trying to figure out how you can just not have comments from the public. It's like Google fascism, bro. What is happening? All right, so look, I am no longer the president of PFLAG Lafayette, but I want to do some quick introductions for those that don't know who I am. My name is Matthew Humphrey. I used to be the president of PFLAG Lafayette. I am the Drag Queen Storytime boogeyman. The guy that was in the suit, awkward-looking tall fellow back there, is Michael Lunsford. He works with some of the folks on the parish council to give us this guy and this lady and the old VP who left. They literally got their positions for whatever experience they have. I have no idea, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of it. They got their positions because they were vocally anti-drag queen story time. You might also know me as the guy that Robert Judge had arrested for saying the word yay to Michael Lunsford back in February. He does not like to be spoken back to. All right, I met first face-to-face with Robert Judge and Michael Lunsford on September 18th, 2018 at the Lafayette City Hall meeting where it was about drag queen story time. Stephanie Armbruster's in pictures protesting against drag queen storytime once we had it. It is not hard to connect the dots here, folks. Mr. Lunsford was also responsible for working with members of the council for them being here. He works with members of the council on all sorts of things to make the city bad. Michael Lunsford is the problem. Mr. Lunsford and Mr. Judge combined are dangerous to the children that use the Lafayette Public Library system, and nobody wants to talk about it. So I'm officially calling for your resignation, Mr. Robert Judge, per my emails I've sent to you on multiple occasions. I am also working with people to collect support to rally the parish council to remove you if you will not step down. Now that Landon's gone, we can get you on out of here since you're not really qualified for it. And then Stephanie, I think you could probably be worked with. I think you just listen to Lunsford. That's really it, y'all. We need to get back to the work of the board, building the library. Super thankful that you voted to move it forward. That's what we need. We need a library on the north side. Building a library system is what you're here for. It's Danny's purview to operate it. You guys are here to make decisions to build it, not destroy it for the sake of the church and keep it in the national news. This was all a ploy from Lunsford and his donors to defeat library taxes, man. And honestly, if someone else had been at the helm, Robert, I feel like the Northeast Library would have already been built. We wouldn't have had so many headlines. I certainly wouldn't have a misdemeanor charge they're trying to pin me with. Good luck with that. That's it. That's really all I got. Hey, signs up for Kara. Signs up against fascism one more time. Can we do that? Thank you. Have a good night.
I'm Dominic Cross, resident of St. Landry Parish. I've been coming to these meetings since January. I was kind of prodded into it, and I'm glad I've been coming. They're dramatic, entertaining, etc. But the common denominator that since I've been here, I did miss one meeting in June. I went to an interracial marriage, my nephew, and I don't know how that would sit with some people, but the common theme from the meetings, except for tonight, all you new people here, there was no gay bashing. There was no anti-LGBTQ comments, either books and videos or from the public about that issue and about people who support the community, the gay community, being groomers. I mean, this person would come up all the time and call everybody groomers because you support this. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's a library, there's books, read them and find out that there's a lot of different people out there. And if you believe in God, God made everybody. So, let it go. Find another thing, which will probably be interracial marriage if I read the news correctly. It's been part of the Republican Party's agenda. So I'm sure that's going to be next. But anyway, it's good that you all passed that. Thank you very much. It's instilled my faith. Not really, but thank you.
Hello, my name's Bremley. I've come before, and the reason why I was originally motivated to come to the first board meeting was I'm a father of 4 children, young children, and my daughter found a book, a cartoon book, but a book that was basically pornographic, encouraged children to explore themselves in a variety of ways. It was in the children's section, and that's what really frames the reason why I'm here. So a number of things. It's more of a laundry list to continue going over. Library displays, children's and young adult teen sections. They've got to be developmentally appropriate and not promote ideologies. I talked about ideologies last time that I was here. Aside from the big displays, which have recently been in the news, there is a big problem when you have these smaller, subtle displays that maybe don't garner as much media attention, that are designed by librarians, which are meant to further a particular socio-political agenda. These are justified by others as awareness or furthering of education, as if all information is age appropriate if you convey it with cartoons and lots of color. Whatever we call them, they are inappropriate if those books conflict with prevailing community standards. People under 18 should have zero access to graphic pornographic material, whether their parent is closely hovering over every move in the library or not. Make reasonably graphic educational text available for adults only. Porn has no place as an asset of any library, period. Parents are the primary educators of their children, not public entities or employees. Age restrictions does not equal censorship or book banning. We strongly encourage Mr. Jolane to monitor and enforce displays and access guidelines he has issued. And finally, we strongly encourage the board and Mr. Jolane to abide by local community standards for selection and age-appropriate classifications of materials. These national associations, like the ALA, etc., have shown that they are wholly agenda ideology-driven and should not be trusted. The principle of subsidiarity supports the conclusion that we let local communities govern with their own interests if they can and we can. These are local libraries which should reflect the prevailing local community standards. And even when critical standards have been eroded, we should look to what traditional standards have served the community over time and reclaim those standards. And just as I conclude, there was an astute comment earlier that said that we need to gain public trust.
Hold on a second. Time, 15 seconds. There's one that goes off in 15 seconds, and mine goes off at 0. You don't get to say time.
Yours goes off at 0?
Mine goes
Holy
off.
shit. Sorry.
Mine goes off when his time is up, not the first one. The first one is to let the speaker know they have 15 seconds to finish. We've done that across the board for quite a while now.
Do I have 10 more seconds?
So you have 8 seconds left.
Okay. If you want community trust, do the things that I was talking about, and people will be willing to vote for the libraries.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pablo Mejia, and I'm a resident of Lafayette Parish and a veteran. I'm addressing you on the topic of North Regional Library Manager, Ms. Kara Chance's employment, and the board's tabled item to review and potentially act to terminate her. At the last board meeting, the board president, Robert Judge, made multiple allegations against Ms. Chance. After making these defamatory allegations, which are at best contested, and based on the facts in the public record factually false, the board tabled action. However, the board president is now leaving this item in limbo by failing to add it to this meeting's agenda. Thus, Ms. Chance and the library owners are left wondering as to the outcome. Making matters worse, after making defamatory statements about Ms. Chance's character and performance, the board president apparently lacks confidence that the facts back them up and is simply trying to pretend they didn't make them, hoping that the public, and presumably Ms. Chance, forgets about them. As a member of the public, a resident of Lafayette Parish, and one of the funders and collective owners of the library system that this board oversees, as servants of the public, I ask the board to clearly state that this item is being dropped. Further, I request the board apologize to Ms. Chance for the public defamatory statements made against her, allegations that are not factually accurate, and potentially open the parish to financial risk. Finally, I want to address Ms. Judge's recent pointed remarks about the legal requirement to allow the public to address the board on items not on the agenda. The law does not require the board furnish chairs, provide lights, microphones, or a multitude of other items. The law does not establish a ceiling. This board serves the public, and it is very clear that the public wants to address the board. Why are you asking if you can legally avoid serving the public? Who do you serve if it isn't us? If it isn't us, then the public should ask the parish council to remove you. Thank you.
I would like to say that I think it's unconscionable to haul someone before what amounts to a tribunal the day before they're scheduled for surgery for the express purpose of firing them so that you can ensure they have no health insurance to cover the cost of that surgery, all because you were offended by a book display. You tabled Kara's employment status discussion until today. She deserved to be heard today or to be informed as to what her status is. After the vitriol, the attempted shaming, the effort to take away her livelihood, she deserves a speedy end to this charade. No hiding behind her FMLA, because that certainly didn't bother you when you were trying to fire her. If you were wrong, and you know you are, you should have added an agenda item to this month and been brave enough to make a motion to pass Kara's employment status back to Director Ghislaine, where it belongs. If the plan is to just wait us out until the media attention dies down and Kara's supporters dwindle away, you're going to be waiting quite a long time. We aren't going anywhere. Kara Chance is an amazing librarian, and her community loves her. We will stand by her as long as it takes. We know from Mr. Judge's remarks at the special meeting that this entire business of firing Kara was really meant as an intimidation tactic. He thinks other librarians might put up teen romance displays too, and then gasp, it will be anarchy in the library. Unfortunately for him, we library lovers know something he seems to have missed out on. Librarians are badasses, and those displays will go up whether he fires Kara or not. Because that's not anarchy, Mr. Judge. That's simply librarians doing their job.
Melanie Brevis.
Good evening. I just want to state, as a library owner, since apparently that's what I am as a Lafayette Parish member, that everything that has happened in the past 18 months with this board and to the library has been basically a dystopian nightmare. We don't even need a fiction book because we are living our own dystopian story right here. And last month was pretty much the pinnacle when we saw a librarian doing her job who you attempted to fire simply for being outspoken and for sharing her opinions and trying to stay fast to ALA principles. And we will not allow it. We will not let you forget it. We will not let you sweep it under the rug and hope it goes away. Board members, including Landon, who's no longer on the board, have talked on numerous occasions about respect. Anyone who doesn't seem to agree with what certain people on this board think are automatically labeled troublemakers. They're not being civil, they're stirring the pot. Oh yeah, and the press, well, they're just trying to make us look bad. Fake news. That's so convenient, that's so easy. But guess who else has used that very simplistic argument historically? Segregationists in the South who claim the media was out to get them and that civil rights activists were just troublemakers. Who claim that the parents who wanted segregated schools were just looking out for their kids' best interest and their own beliefs, and that those beliefs did not deserve to be trampled on. The U.S. government rewarded or punished Native American tribes in the 1800s and the 1900s based on how civil they were, how much they played nice with the government and didn't resist attempts to have their own culture and identity eradicated. McCarthy in the 1950s ran a terror campaign against those who spoke out against him, not against those who remained silent and respectful. So I don't want to have anything to do with your ideas of respect and civility. It's toxic, plain and simple. You're using civility as a weapon, you're lying about what you have done and about what we have done, and enough is enough. You are well on your way to villain infamy. Your actions so precisely mirror that of past evil in both the fiction and nonfiction realms. Hang with me here, these are all books you probably don't like. Nurse Ratched, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Dolores Umbridge, Harry Potter, Beverly Keane, Midnight Mass, Joseph McCarthy, George Wallace, Hitler, Putin. You're following exactly down that same path, and we're not going to let history repeat itself. Thank you.
Ben Barber. Ken Broussard.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your decision tonight. I applaud that.
speak to a little bit of what has been referred to as community standards. We live in a plurality. We live among many differences right here in Lafayette. Races, ethnic groups, well, there's only one race, the human race, and ethnic groups. And which community standards are you talking about enforcing and asking for? Whose community standards? And have you listened to those communities to find out what their standards really are? Someone talked about traditional standards earlier. Well, the traditional standards that I grew up with would not allow me to wear this t-shirt, would not allow me to be myself. Uncomfortable subjects were never talked about. They were kept in the dark. No access to them, except maybe some libraries, but not necessarily. And those traditional standards led to repression, depression, isolation, exclusion, and in some cases, suicide. And they go totally against what Lafayette seems to pride itself on. There's an aspect of it anyway, of being a Christian town. Well, my understanding of the Christ and Jesus, the one whose cross you wear, was not one of exclusion or silence. He embraced those who were different. And in talking about the librarian, ideology imposition, their radical agenda, you know what their radical agenda is? Truth. Exposure to the truth, whatever that is. I'm sorry that your child found something you thought was inappropriate. Hopefully you were able to have a discussion about it without shaming her or him, or without shaming the person who wrote it. So that I see the Library Association as being inclusive, holding a real Christian value, though they would not be called or say they would be Christian, because they honor all faiths, including those with no faith. So I beg you to look at the Library Association guidelines and principles and allow them to be continually implemented here in this library.
Please, thank you.
Connie Milton.
Hi, I'm Connie Milton. I am a librarian here, librarian 3. I'm the head of outreach services for now. I actually put in my 2 weeks notice on Friday. And I just want to ask you guys on the board, when you make your decisions, that you think about the librarians and the library staff who work here, and that you try to make decisions that actually make things better for the staff. I can only speak for myself, but the morale that I've been having dealing with everything that's been going on has not been good. And like Ms. Mary said, if we want people who actually know about libraries, who are actually educated on how libraries should be run, to want to work for this library system, we need to do a better job of presenting a library system that follows the ideals of, what ALA stands for. And I honestly don't feel like we've been doing a very good job of that. I also think that it's really sad that we have people on staff here who are afraid to speak out and say what they believe in, because they're scared they're gonna lose their jobs based on a whim. So if you know anything about libraries, you know right now in the library world, DEI is very important. That's diversity, equity, inclusion. Acknowledging that somebody exists and they have the right to exist and the right to live their life and have the same rights that everyone else has is not pushing ideology. We just want everybody to have equal access to information. We want everybody to be able to come into a library and see themselves represented. That's all we're doing. That's all we're asking for. And I just want you guys to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melanie Champagne, and I'm a teacher. I teach middle school gifted, and as many times as my son and I have visited this library, this is the first time I've come to speak at a meeting. We usually come and check out books, read together, and do what normally happens at a library, but this library board has really caught my attention, and many of my friends too, and mostly you, Mr. Robert Judge. Up until recently, I didn't know a single one of you except Shane. I've never heard of you before, and that's typically the norm. You know, people just tend to enjoy the library. Library meetings don't typically like fill up and have signs and all those things like that. And mostly upset people. That's not usually the norm. I've been attending these meetings. I've been watching and listening, paying attention, mostly silently. I'll watch the facial expressions of some of you while people are out here pouring their hearts out. I see people, I'll watch to see the smirks and the playing on the phone when people are addressing things that are very important to them. I see the manner in which you conduct yourselves, and I'm embarrassed because this is a beloved library system. I am ashamed that this library, the attention that this board has gained, it's embarrassing. I see my friends that live in different parts of the state, and they dote on their thriving library, something that many of us used to be able to do here in Lafayette. But now, unfortunately, we have to watch and listen and read article and article about the grossness that's happening at these meetings. Some of you can't seem to execute is this issue of separating what's personally your belief system and providing a library environment that opens its arms wide open to people who thirst for information, to children who crave stories of brave heroes slaying the dragons, to those who need an internet connection to apply for jobs and scholarships and maybe type up a resume or write an amazing and stellar essay to impress their English teacher. So consider maybe doing some professional development, maybe in other library systems in other states, and see what they are doing and how packed their library meetings are. Consider doing what public school teachers do and mental health professionals do, and pour yourselves into serving the community and providing resources to a variety of folks who may not look like you or act like you, who may not dress like you, and who may not believe like you. Because if you haven't gripped the reality, you and your policies are very unliked. You've disturbed something that's very precious to people, and that's the library. If I told my sons what was happening here in this month, they would see the injustice immediately, and they would behave better than you. So look around this room, evaluate your effectiveness like a public school teacher does, and ask yourself, what would your admin rate you?
Thank you.
How would you score?
Dr. Francesco Crocco.
All right, thank you. Frank Rocco again, President of the Mindset. And I want to thank the board for the vote earlier on a location for the library. I think that was amazing. You want to be commended for that. Thank you. I'm here to speak to the issue of banning book displays. And I spoke to this 2 weeks ago, I think it was, or 3 weeks ago when there was an emergency meeting. I understand that the stated intent of banning book displays representing specific communities was to avoid controversy. I listened to a podcast, or I saw a video of it. And I just want to point out yet again, I think it's created the controversy it was intended to avoid. Here we are. I mean, these are library board meetings. They should be humdrum, not full of activists holding signs, right? So your actions here have actually produced what you're trying to avoid. We've gotten bad national press. And again, there was a threat of firing a branch manager for a book display. So it's created more controversy. I want to speak to this issue of neutrality and what is ideological. So I think I mentioned last time my PhD is in British literature. I did my doctoral studies on the uses of literature to create British national identity. Do you know where the first place that British English language literature was taught to school-age children? What? India in the 18th century. Do you know why? To inculcate a sense of British, the superiority of British culture, because the British were colonizing India at the time. Citizens in Britain were not learning and reading Shakespeare, Milton, and Poe in school, but Indian students were. And actually, it worked so well that they transferred it back to the homeland. And that's how we got a British canon, or part of how we got a British canon. So when I hear that, you know, we want to have neutral displays, there's no such thing as a neutral display. But one thing that I want to point out here that you need to think about. Now, you've banned all displays representing specific communities, including Cajun heritage. Next year is the bicentennial of Lafayette Parish. According to this policy, you cannot put out a display honoring Cajun heritage, Creole heritage, or any other group that may be represented and celebrated in the bicentennial year, because you would be violating your own stated policy. So I ask you, I leave you with this question. Is the library going to sit out the entire bicentennial year celebration? Thank you.
Alice Ferguson.
My name is Alice Ferguson. I have a doctorate in mass media and communication with a minor in psychology. I am a recently retired faculty member from the Department of Communication at UL Lafayette. Thank you for my opportunity as a Lafayette Parish resident and owner of the library to make public comments, because according to what Mr. Judge asked earlier, that right of mine and that opportunity may not last much longer here. I hope I'm wrong about that. I was here at the July special meeting because when I heard the reports about what was happening with this board's reaction to library displays and books about subjects such as the LGBTQ community, for which I proudly serve as a straight ally, I'm very happy to say, I was horrified by that, on top of being horrified by so much else that I have heard coming out of this board from these individuals over the past couple of years, that I felt compelled to start showing up to these meetings and start doing my due diligence as a resident and taxpayer and voter of this parish. I cannot tell you how embarrassed and ashamed I am of the behavior that I have seen from the board. And I say that less so of the three of you, Shane, Ms. Wingate, Dr. Petrie, less so for the three of you who at least appear like you are making the effort to listen, and more so for Mr. Judge as he scribbles away during these public comments, and Ms. Armbruster who sits there swiping the phone in her lap, as if neither of you could frankly care less about what any of us happen to think about your performance on this board. I think your treatment of Kara was horrendous, beyond shameful. The amount of time that this board has taken to work to this process that you finally got to tonight for the new library location. That took way too much time, and I'm really glad that at least 4 of you decided to vote for that decision this evening. I'm grateful for that vote. You seem to have a great deal of difficulty figuring out how to properly manage the posting of items on your meeting agendas or the management of RFP paperwork and similar simple matters of public procedure. I urge all of you, if you cannot do better in upholding the library's mission, please resign and step aside for other